best version of you. Empower like Cleopatra. Empower like Cleopatra.
Hello, 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 hello. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, where you're watching from. Welcome to the show. Now, first of all, if you're in the chat, I want to see a heart emoji, please. I want to see a heart emoji to know that you are here, guys. Put something in the chat. I'm just going to take a look and see who's here. Put something in the chat. Put something in the chat, guys. Welcome to the show. We've got 6 people already. I want to see what's happening in the chats. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Right. Let's see who's here. Who's here? Okay. Well, I'm still waiting for your chats to come in, but I want to say welcome. Well, my name's Cleopatra Starrett. As you all know, I'm your host. And tonight we are going to be diving into something that's amazing and informative and educative for everyone. I want to start first of all by thanking everyone who joins the show, from the usual suspects who are always here supporting me and everything, and the new ones as well who are just joining for the first time. I love you. I appreciate you, and I thank you so much for making this show fun, making it exciting, making it meaningful. Thank you so much. And if you're joining for the first time, welcome once again. But please, I want that heart emoji on the chat to let me know that you're here. And I'd love to hear from you. If you're a new subscriber, let me know you're a new subscriber as well. Before we begin, I want to ask you, please, if you're going to be watching this show again, please don't forget to watch it to the end, because when you do that, then YouTube algorithm will recommend the show to somebody else. And watch the show to the end. Please subscribe, guys. I need you guys to subscribe. If you want to be a co-host on the show, or you've got anything you want to share as a guest, please don't hesitate to send an email to empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. That's empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. Now, today's episode is incredibly important because we are discussing a topic that affects millions of women worldwide, but is often misunderstood. Postnatal depression, also known as postpartum depression in the States. Joining me today is the incredible Cindy Eden. She's a woman who's battled postnatal depression and emerged stronger, wiser, and passionate about helping others. She was a guest on last week's show where we talked about menopause, sex, and HRT. So if you haven't watched that show, guys, trust me, you need to go see that show. Watch it, all right? Mrs. Cindy Eden, for those of you who don't know her, is an IT project manager. She's 55 years old. She's a wife. She's a mother. She's a Christian who's rooted in the belief of the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. She's passionate about helping people realize how much impact God's presence can be in their lives. Tonight, Cindy will be sharing her journey, her struggles, the turning points, and her healing process. So if you're a mom, or you know a mom, or simply want to be a part of the solution in supporting women's mental health, this episode is for you. Everyone, please welcome Cindy to the show. Welcome,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
Say hello to everyone for us.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so guys, grab a cup of coffee, get some popcorn or whatever. Just get comfortable, and we're going to dive in. To all our viewers, like I said, you need to put a heart emoji on the chat, all right? If you know someone who's ever experienced postnatal depression, let us know in your comments as well, okay? Because their story matters, and it'd be nice to also hear their experiences. But before we speak to Cindy, I want to ensure that we all understand exactly what we mean when we say postnatal depression or postpartum depression. So I will take a few minutes to explain exactly what it is, what the signs are, the symptoms, the triggers, and we will discuss the treatment after Cindy's interview, after the story. So, guys, please don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Postnatal depression is a type of depression that affects women after childbirth. While it is normal for some mothers to feel, these mood swings and baby blues in the first 2 weeks after they give birth, PND, that's postnatal depression, is much more serious and is long lasting. It can appear weeks or even months after childbirth. And if it's left untreated, it can deeply affect both the mother and the baby. But how do you know if what you're feeling is more than just exhaustion? Or, how would you know? Let's take a look at what the symptoms are. We're talking about first emotional symptoms. And when we talk about that, we talk about persistent sadness, feeling of overwhelming and deep sense of hopelessness. You have this anxiety, excessive worry, you are irritable, you're frustrated, you have this sudden mood swings, loss of interest in activities, including bonding with your baby even. You feel guilty, you feel inadequate, you feel like you're a failure. These are some of the emotional symptoms. And then physical symptoms will consist of fatigue, changes in your energy, your appetite, either you're eating too much or eating too little, sleep disturbances, you have trouble sleeping or you're oversleeping, unexplained body aches and pains. And then behavioral symptoms include things like you're withdrawing from family and friends, you feel disconnected from the baby, you don't have any motivation for daily tasks. And in extreme cases, there are thoughts of self-harm or harming the baby. So, guys, in the chat, let me know, put it in the chat. Have you or someone you know ever experienced any of these symptoms? Have you? If you have, please drop it in the chat and comment below, and let's start this conversation. Right? Okay, before I go on to talk about what triggers it, I have Robin on the show. Hey, Robin. Hi. Always good to see you, bro. Rita, hi. Nice to have you here, Rita. Hi. We got Simi Divine. I love that name, Simi Divine. Hi, this is Simbo. Simbo, Cindy Simbo says hi to you.
Hi, Simbo.
Maureen, my big sis, Maureen, I love you. Thank you for joining. Oh, Osula. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Hi, Yogogo.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, guys. It's so good to see everyone. Now, keep the chats rolling in. Keep the comments coming in. If you know anyone who's suffered from this before, please keep it coming in, right? I'm going to go into what we mean by postnatal depression right now, okay? So let's start with what the triggers are, right? What are the triggers of postnatal depression? So several factors can increase the risk of PND, which includes things like hormonal changes, a drastic drop in your estrogen or progesterone levels after childbirth can impact the mood, your moods. Emotional stress, adjusting to new motherhood, obviously the body changes, and sleep deprivation can also be very overwhelming, and that can trigger it as well. And then if you feel like you don't get support from, family, you feel isolated, or you don't have any emotional or practical support, that can worsen it as well. And then if you have a history of depression, for instance, if you've ever had depression or you felt this anxiety before, then you may be susceptible to it. Not that it is always the case, but you may be susceptible to it. Now, also, if you've had difficult childbirth, maybe you've had a traumatic experience giving birth, that can also be a factor. Now, Cindy, let's begin. Yeah. Let's hear from Cindy herself, how, just take us back, Cindy. Just take us back to the moment you first realized that you were experiencing postnatal depression. What were the signs and symptoms for you?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would say that me being here today I'm a living testimony and the very embodiment of God's faithfulness and his goodness, really. When I got pregnant, obviously at the time, for us in those days, it's very late. I got pregnant, I think, at the age of 31, and the pregnancy was quite a tough one. But I saw it through to the end. But then when I had my, I went into labor, we went to the hospital, and it happens to be December, around the day before Christmas. So my husband took me to the hospital, and then the journey started. It was traumatic. I was feeling labor pains, but I was not dilating. Even the nurses were like, this is not good, that I was going through so much. My body was in pain. I was breaking down. My husband was very supportive, and he would be in the hospital with me all day. We would go for walks. Then I even had hospital bath, had a bath. They told me everything that could help to trigger to get me to dilate, but nothing was happening. And they were checking the machines. They attached my womb to the machine, and they kept coming to look at me, and they said, the contractions are so hard. Why are you not dilating? They were a bit confused. Why am I not dilating? And so after a while, I think and I felt, and I was feeling so sorry for my husband, because it was just myself and him, nobody. And we were both new to this. Nobody, we didn't know anything. We had no clue. So we were just like the blind leading the blind. So the nurses, they were very supportive. Eventually, I think on Christmas Day, one of the nurses came, and midwives, she came, she was like, I need to help you here, that these contractions are too hard. How, they couldn't understand how my body, because it got to a point I couldn't even eat, because I could not eat at all. I was tired, I was exhausted. So they broke the membrane for me. And that was how then the contraction started very quickly. Then I started dilating. So my husband, at that point, they had to ask my husband to leave, because it was late in the night and he had to go back home. So my husband went back home. I think it was about just getting into the house when they called him that he needs to come back. I was worrying about him, and I was worrying about myself. So because you could see the exhaustion on him. I felt so sorry for him, but there was nothing I could do. So by the time he came back, I was already in the labor ward. This was on Boxing Day, about 6 a.m. or so, something thereabout. So by that time, they saw that the contraction was so bad, and they brought in the nurse or someone to administer epidural. And I told, after that experience, I told my husband, I said, that epidural did nothing, but my husband said, I'm sure after a while, you'll realize that epidural made a difference, because I was still feeling so much pain, and then there were so many medical professionals in the room. I was just seeing uniforms and all that. And then I saw trolleys of different equipments for different event, for any eventuality. If something goes wrong, they're taking this trolley, if something like that, So I was like, and I started panicking. So at that point, eventually had the baby came on Boxing Day, and I had serious tears. I was in pain. I was almost out of my mind, and that was why I said the epidural did nothing to me, So when the baby came out, my husband wanted to give me the baby. I just didn't want to hold the baby. Don't bring that baby near me, So I didn't feel anything for the baby, nothing at all. And I was like, what exactly is going on here? And I think that was when the guilt gradually started. The baby was crying. My husband said, try and feed the baby. I said, no, I can't do anything. I can't feed the baby. Just take him, I don't want to see him, So my husband was like, he was confused. He didn't know what to say. So try to get the nurses and, the midwives to try and, talk to me. But they told him that nothing will go wrong with the baby. Just leave her alone for now, And, when After, after the, I think, yeah, then, I was, at that point, I became hungry. And I told him, I said, I'm not feeding any baby. You need to get me food. I need to eat. I'm hungry. Because at this time, I had not eaten like in about a day, because I couldn't eat during the period I was having the contractions and in labor. So eventually, that was how the genesis, the beginning of the problem. But one thing I would say to that I learned during the labor and the childbirth period was that a woman's sensitivity is heightened. Even things that is said from a place of advice, observation, concern, even from a place of support, can be misinterpreted and perceived as being judged. So many times, I assumed judgment, and before I knew it, it had taken, you take the words, and you run with it, because you're like, what are you saying to me? You don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand what I'm feeling, So this led, so I wallowed in this, and this led to a place of sadness, depression, and I felt like I was an incompetent mom at the time. In that sort of situation, communication is very key, because your partner may not be aware. Because all this, I didn't communicate a lot of things with my husband, So what I did was I bottled everything up, interpreted it as blame and chastisement, both to myself and to my partner. And this triggered me into depression. And that was how I just went down that route.
Interesting. Let me go to the chat. That's wow. Yoyin, hi, thank you for joining, my darling friend. Oh, Yoyin, you call me Cleo. Nobody calls me Cleo. It's Cleopatra, darling. Robin says a question. Tessie, thank you so much for joining. Hi, big sis, how you doing? Robin says a question very much for later. I know women's bodies go through so many hormonal changes, etc., that contribute to postnatal depression or postpartum depression. But do men suffer an equivalent? Obviously, much lesser. It will be so debilitating seeing the one you love and the new baby you love going through this and trying to support them. What can we do best to support? We will come. That's a very good question. We will come back to that later, because there are definitely ways that you can support. So that's it. Just hold that thought, because we're going to be talking about that. Hi, Eladuna. Hi. Thank you so much for joining. Mwah. Thank you so much. Yonyi, oh my gosh. Yes, oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you so much, Cindy. Okay. So, right. So, how did postnatal depression affect your daily life and your bond with your baby after that, Cindy?
Oh, it was a major, major struggle. And honestly, the first 3 months, there was no bond. I was emotionally detached from myself, from my child, from my husband, and even from my surroundings. I remember then I would be feeding the baby and I would be crying, because my body was in pain. And remember, I said I had a tear as well, and that was painful, because I was sore, breastfeeding and all that. I was sore because my baby refused to take the bottle.
Wow.
Yeah, because in the hospital, when they found that I refused to feed the baby, they tried giving the baby bottle. So somehow they were able to feed the baby without me doing, but when I got home, I had to do it myself. So, all the bottles we bought were wasted because they never took the bottle anyway, So, and the thing is, you see on TV, posters, and everywhere, women being happy, seeing their babies and all that, because, the image is that And that's what I've been told. I was told that, oh, when you see the baby, you'll forget all the pain. You'll forget everything. You'll be so happy. I'm like, I'm not feeling this. Why did they lie to me?
Mhm.
You know, I don't feel anything. I'm not interested in the baby, you know? So, and that picture of what I saw was not what I was experiencing. It's not reality. So I didn't, so the struggles, I had the struggles and the pain and everything, including, including my husband, because I was ashamed. I was actually ashamed of the lack of bonding between me and my baby. I couldn't discuss it with my husband because I felt like a very incompetent mom.
Mm.
But what exactly is going on here? So I was constantly in tears. I was constantly crying. Then after 3 months, and before I go into after 3 months, during the period of these 3 months, my baby developed eczema, developed cradle cap. I remember,
Mm.
if any mother who has experienced that with their child, you will know how traumatic that can be as well. Because the eczema was so bad. Eczema, cradle cap, I didn't know what to do. My husband was like, so we went to the hospital, we went to the GP. GP prescribed so many, some cream and something they used to call oilatum we put in water, and we started using it. But after about 3 months, I kind of like, obviously I've started feeding the baby at this time, but the bonding was still not there. So I kind of like started gradually feeling like a mom.
Mm.
I was kind of like, but maybe I was pretending to be a mom that loves the baby, but I just was doing what I needed to do, at least for the baby to survive and for everyone to be happy around me.
Mm.
So it affected my job, affected my relationship with friends, even finances, you know. And I was in and out of hospital several times during
Wow.
those 3 months because I just developed, because depression can trigger physical pain.
Mm.
So my hormones were all over the place. And even when I went for my 6-week check with when I got to the GP, when I was at home, I didn't feel any symptoms of high blood pressure. I just knew that I was stressed, I was tired, I was like, I didn't feel like doing anything. So I got to the GP. The GP said, your blood pressure is very high. My blood pressure then was 220
Wow.
over 160. So the GP said, sorry, you can't go home. Even though my house to the GP was like 5 minutes walk, said, I can't let you go home because you may die on the way.
Hmm.
So he said, give me your husband's number. I need him to take you straight to the hospital. So I gave him my husband. My husband came with the baby. We went off to the hospital and they kept me in the hospital overnight. So even that in itself, that I had to leave my baby again, because the baby was not allowed to stay in the hospital with me. So it was such a traumatic experience,
Hmm.
that not only mentally did I feel the trauma, I felt the trauma in my body, emotionally. I felt it in every way you can describe.
Wow.
So it was not and I always tell mothers now, don't try to be a superwoman. Don't.
Wow. Wow. So you talked about your husband earlier. How did it affect you in terms of your intimacy with your husband as well?
Sorry, there was no intimacy.
Wow.
There wasn't, because I just couldn't cope with, I was, anytime I remember that whenever my husband goes to work
Mm.
and he comes back, he sees like a mad woman when he gets back to the house,
Hmm.
because my hair is like all over the place. I couldn't cope. The baby is in my hand. The baby is constantly, and then you have a crying baby as well. So it's like, what am I going to do with this? And I will be there trying to find a solution that this baby is crying. There was time something happened. And I think, we Black people, we do circumcision for our male children,
Yeah.
So, and after the circumcision, even during the period of having to dress the wound and everything, was traumatic. I would tell my husband, I can't do this. You have to do it. I can't touch, Then one day he was at work. I was the only one at home. And then the baby pooped all over the nappy and everything. And the wound was still there. I couldn't do anything. I carried the baby. I was running on the streets.
Wow.
I was trying to get somebody to help me. I said, I can't do this. I can't. Nobody told me that he was going to poop on the circumcision wound. I said, how would I clean this? And the baby was
Wow.
crying. So I called one auntie. She came. She was the one that came to dress the baby, clean the baby, because I didn't touch him. I
Wow.
was so scared.
Wow.
So it was, I think all this was like mounted pain, trauma, and stress, and everything just kept building. Even though I had started developing some form of affection for my baby, they had already gone down that route of depression. And I wasn't seeking help because I wasn't telling anybody that I was depressed. Because I remember that in the early stages, my doctor actually told me that he needs to prescribe me with antidepressants because if he thinks I'm depressed.
Mm.
And I told him, I said, I don't want it. Because one thing I can say is that I have a very strong mind and very strong personality. And I think that kind of also helped me through this period because I just made up my mind. I said, I'm not, because I've heard about, how you can get addicted to antidepressants and the side effects and all that. And I said, no, this is not to say that it doesn't work. If your doctor prescribes it and, for crying out loud, please listen to your doctor, listen to all the medical professionals that have been assigned to you and do what works for you. But for me personally, I refused to take the antidepressants.
Hmm. Okay. Guys, let me see who's at the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. Robin is quite shocked at everything going on with this emoji. Yonyi says, Yeah, guys, drop any chats. Do you know anyone who's suffered from PND? Would love to, and were you affected as well? The ladies in the group as well. Were you affected? Right. Cindy, did you feel supported by your family and friends? Or like you said, your GP or the healthcare system during this time? Did you get any support around for you at all?
You see, when you talk about that, I would say, I guess you will only get support based on what you express and you vocalize. Because most of the time, I was pretending to be okay. Even a lot of my friends
Right.
on this show that knew me then, I don't think some of them knew I went through. Even you did not know
No, I
what I went through.
didn't. I didn't.
So I didn't tell anybody because I was just too ashamed to even say anything. Because we kind of like, from where we are from, you don't have depression. We're from Nigeria. You don't have, it's not, what's
No.
depression? You don't have depression because we see those kind of things as, when they say somebody is not right mentally,
You think they are mad?
you think they're mad. You think they're those you see on the streets with not wearing clothes and all that. But really, there's some people who are well clothed and they are like not right in their mind,
Mm-hmm.
But that was the impression because I was advised to get counseling, which I did. I There were a lot of friends from church. You guys visited then. So a lot of people visited, but nobody. I did not say a word of what was going on in here to anybody, and the pain of even masking the pain.
Wow.
Is a different thing. Because I was in pain, trying to mask the pain I was going through.
Wow.
So, and the thing is that after a while, because my husband knew something was off, he knew something was off because I was always like, I had mood swings and all sorts, and eventually, after about, I think 6 or 7 months, my husband came home one day, he just said, do you want to go back to work? Because he felt maybe if I get out of the house, that would help. I said, yes, I would like to go back to work. And then my husband did something that's amazing that I cannot believe that he would do. It took 4 months off work because we were not ready to send our son to the nursery. We were waiting until he was 1. So it took 4 months off work to stay at home to take care of this boy. And after that, he's always saying, that was the best moment of his life, that he was able to bond with his
the
son.
baby, yes.
Because he said it is something that he didn't regret it, that he was happy that he did that.
Oh.
So the advice that I'll give everyone who has not had children yet and are planning to do is that you need to educate yourself about pregnancy and what happens after pregnancy. And even during pregnancy, because I mean about pregnancy, labor, and after, because during pregnancy, the problem could have started from there if you are having a very difficult pregnancy, So then you need to learn about postnatal depression so that you can either avoid it, manage it, or overcome it at the earliest stage. For fathers and potential fathers, you need to educate yourself so you can best support your partner or your wife. It's very important because once you have that knowledge, you can see the signs and you can quickly nip it in the bud. But like I said, my husband and I, we were like blind leading the blind. We didn't know nothing.
I mean, there's no manual in these things, especially when that was probably the last thing you would even think about, in the journey of becoming a mother.
I was excited about having children. I was excited about, even when I was pregnant, when I first found out I was pregnant, I was so excited. I was, I want to meet this child. And then, the baby came and then it's like, who are you?
So what was the most challenging part then of your journey through postnatal depression then?
I think the most challenging part of it is not being able to share the pain or having to carry this for 16 years. And then this led to, different sickness in the body. And, it's like I frequented the hospital so much that I almost became like a member of staff in Croydon Hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will tell you something that, another challenging period was after I had my second one. Because when I had the first one, I was not in a hurry to have the second one. Because I thought, no.
You want to go through the same thing again?
No. So when I had the second one, after about 2.5 months, I was having this terrible headache. And I just didn't, because of the blood pressure, because as at that time, after I had my first son, I was then diagnosed as having high blood pressure. So I was not having this headache. It was so bad. I woke up in the middle of the night. My husband was watching telly because he's used to not sleeping, during the night. He's just awake. So he was watching telly, which for me, I would say today, was a blessing in disguise. So I woke up, went to the kitchen to get some paracetamol. So I took the paracetamol, I was in the kitchen, and I just put the paracetamol in my mouth. And that was the last thing I remembered. And then I started hearing somebody calling my name. Cindy, Cindy. I'm like, then I came around. Then I saw myself on the floor in front of the bathroom. The last thing I remembered, I was in the kitchen. I found myself on the floor in front of the bathroom. And I told my husband, I said, why am I on the floor? Why was I so tired that I couldn't even get to the room to lie down? My husband said, no, you passed out. I just heard a thud. and I ran here and I saw you on the floor. So by the time I got up, I felt pain all over my face, which meant what must have happened was that I was hitting my head against the wall up until I got to the bathroom and dropped on the floor. So the following day, I went to the doctors. I had to, because by the time I woke up the following day, my face was purple, brown, was scarred. So I had to tie a scarf over my face, wore sunglasses, because I just couldn't carry my face like that outside. So I went to the doctor, and I was even afraid to go to the doctor because my doctor was saying, the way my face looked, you would think my husband battered my face. So how do I explain that? But fortunately, we had a doctor who knew my husband, who knew me. So when I got to him, he even made fun of me. He said, did he do that? I said, why are you saying that? So it's I told him what happened. He said, oh, that they need to keep me under observation, but they need to send me to the hospital so that they can find out, check what's going on. And that sometimes, it's the beginning of something. He mentioned one symptom, and I said, that's not my portion, because I don't accept anything you call on me. So immediately I got home, I told my husband what happened. So my husband just said, you know what, enough is enough. So he just went on the internet. Every money he got, he just booked a flight for 4 of us, myself, himself, my first son, and the second one. We're out of here. That you need a break. So he just booked a ticket. We went to the US for a month. And when we went, he said, we're staying in a hotel. We're not staying with anybody because I need you to rest. So that was what we did. And by the time I came back, I was really, really refreshed. But it hadn't solved the problem, the root of the main problem. But I was well refreshed. And that was when I made up my mind that, you know what, if anything is breaking down, is collapsing here, I'm not touching it. But I have to say this about my husband. My husband is not perfect, neither am I. But man, he's a good husband and a very good father. He would wake up in the morning before me, wash the dishes, tidy the house, just so that when I wake up, I'm not facing that. And he's going to work, he would do that and just do that before going to work so that I'm just like rested. And then he would sometimes want to cook for me. And I tell him, no, I'm not eating your food. Don't cook. Don't. I appreciate the orders you're doing, but don't cook. So it's like, so he was very, very, at least I got a lot of support from my husband, even though I wasn't saying much.
Oh, yeah. Bless you. Guys, I'm going to go into the chat in a second because I can see some comments already in the chat. But I want you, those in the audience, the comments, I want in the comment section, how do you think we can best support people, ladies that are going through PND at the moment, or that that are pregnant? If you know anyone, how do you think, what's the best way do you think you can support? Drop it in the chats. Drop it in the chat so we can know how you feel you can best support them. Okay, so Ibedun Udo says, hi Cindy, your auntie Mrs. Udo. And Yoyin says, Cindy didn't mention that much, but I suspected there was quite a bit. Quite a bit of expatiate on that, Yonya, because I think we've gone past that bit. I should have said that earlier, but expatiate on that so that we can she can respond to that. And then Princess A says the pain of masking the pain. Absolutely. And then Tessie, hi Tessie. Tessie says, how is your relationship now with your son? Did you tell him about your experience of PND? She spoke to me about that yesterday, but yeah, she'll tell you again.
Okay, I'll tell you that. So I'll tell you something. Before I came on this show, I told him, I said, I'm going on this show and I'm going to be talking about postnatal depression. And it has to do with you. Said, Mom, just go for it. Just go for it. I know that we are like this. So just go for it. I support you, because whatever it is, it wasn't your fault. So
exactly.
Just go for it.
And it wasn't his fault either, you know.
Exactly.
Some children might even start thinking, oh, you know, maybe it was my fault or whatever.
Yeah,
Nothing to do
exactly.
with you. Nothing to do with
But I
you.
can tell you, we are I mean, a lot of my friends on this show know that I'm very close to my sons, both of them, especially the first one. We are very, very close. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that we don't discuss.
Oh, that's nice. Amaka, thanks for joining, Amaka. It's so good to see you. Mwah. Amaka says, bless him. Yeah, bless him. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead also and ask more questions because this is really, really useful. Many mothers would probably be silent like you did. You know, they wouldn't want to say anything. But what made you finally decide to speak up about this? And obviously, maybe seek help or just at least talk about it. What was the trigger that made you decide to talk about it?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't seek help until I got free. And I'm not going to jump because your next question is likely to be what happened. And I'm not going to jump the gun, but I'll tell you, I never sought help. But the first time I spoke about it, I was already free. My auntie came to visit, and she came to visit us then. My mom's cousin, she came to visit us, and my brother-in-law, my husband's eldest brother, was there. So we're having a conversation, we're just chatting and all that. And I just dropped it like casually. I said, well, you know, this, and this happened. My auntie was like, what? She said, how can you keep something like this inside of you for 16 years? How can you do that? You know, she was really shocked. My husband was like that. He couldn't, no, none of them, my brother-in-law, everybody, they were like, how? So all I can say is that my healing, my freedom from depression came from God. Because all the way, I just kept praying. Because one thing that was not taken away from me was the power to pray. My Christian faith, that was not taken away from me. I didn't forget that. The depression did not take that away from me. So I'm very grateful to God. That's why I said I am a living testimony of God's faithfulness, the embodiment of his goodness, his mercy, and his grace. Because without that, I don't think I'll be where I am today.
Amen to that. Feyi Oluyole Balogun, thank you so much for joining. Says, hi, Cindy. And Abidemi says, thanks for speaking up, Cindy. Rita says, based on your first experience, what advice was given to you by your doctor to encourage you to deal with the second child? That's a very good question.
Okay, as at the time, I had like I said, I had high blood pressure, and I was told about how I should change my diet and be careful what I eat, and try to exercise. And obviously, they were recommending counseling. Like I said, I attended a bit of counseling, and at that point, obviously, they wanted me to have the antidepressants, and I was like, no, thank you. I would be fine. So,
Okay.
but bottom line here for me personally, this is my own personal experience. I relied on my faith, and I'm glad that I have that.
So that was your turning point, just your faith, or what was it that's really turned things around for you then? Was it just you just woke up one morning and you just felt, okay, that's it?
No.
Over
I'll
this.
tell you what happened. You see, there was in 2017, that was the year where I got my healing. I I said that I refuse antidepressants. I'd been advised a number of times by my GP to be prescribed antidepressant, but I just kept refusing to go down that route. It's not to say that it doesn't work for others, but I reviewed the side effects, the triggers, would not have worked for me at all. So I passed on it. However, I chose an alternative route through counseling. Even with that, the perceived cultural stigma, like I said, made me uncomfortable about it because, my past knowledge about people needing something like that from when I originally lived in Nigeria is like people who need that are people that, walk on the street with no clothes on, So the bottom line for me was not about the drugs or counseling. So I had to go back to what I knew best, which was my faith.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was a battle of the mind for me, where one voice was telling me to stand well back of the train platform, and other voice is saying and nudging me to go forward. And that is just one example of many of my mindset at the time. So how did I fight my mind? I joined a prayer group because I just joined a church then. So I joined the prayer group. And I didn't even join the prayer group because I thought I was going to get healed. I just joined the prayer group and became very proactive and not realizing that it was a place of healing, a place of outlet, a place of peace, and a place where I could let go. Similar to how you would in a counseling session.
Yeah.
So, and I just kept going because the urge then during those 3 months when I first joined that prayer group was very negative, but I kept at it. And then before I knew it, I just saw that the urge to do something to myself disappeared. All the feelings that I used to have disappeared. Everything, I just felt different. And that was when I realized that, they always say something for us, for people like us that are believers, they always say when you take care of God's business,
God will take care of yours.
He will take care of yours. That was what happened.
Yeah.
He took care of my business while I was taking care of his business.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let me go to the chats. Yoni says, my darling friend Cindy, I'm so proud of you. Well done indeed. Heart emoji and to you. Tessie says, ladies should have the confidence to trust someone to express their condition. Very true. Very true. I think I have to say this without I'm not trying to be racist or anything like that, but I have to admit that the Caucasian woman will be very quick to seek help. For some reason, they are more open to seek help, to get the support that they need. They're very much more expressive. And that's a good thing. I think Black women should emulate that, about the fact that you come up and say, look, listen, I need help. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So yeah, I think that's a very good observation, Tessie. Lola Babs says, well done, Cindy. Thanking God for your life. Bobby Sotan says, really great insight. Yonyi says, at Cleopatra, Cindy knows we have come a long way as friends. As I said, she knows. I later realized the extent as we started having little conversations going forward. Yes, I can't even argue with that. And Lola says, thanks for sharing, Auntie C. Nice one. Okay, so we're gonna round up the questions in a minute, after maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and then I'll talk about other things before we finish for the day. But were there any specific lifestyle changes, like I don't know, therapy or coping strategies that helped you the most? I know you talked about the prayer sessions and then the group and things like that. Were there other things that you imbibed as well?
Yeah, I that was when I got addicted to exercising.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I needed to do something to kind of like distract me and keep my mind occupied.
Yeah.
So I started working out, and not just any workout. I started doing very intense workout.
Right.
And when some of my friends, some of my friends, when they hear about this particular workout, they're like, you are not for real, you know. So it was,
Probably why
and
you are so flexible, like you said now last week. Ooh, child.
you know, so yeah, I started exercising, and then what I started doing as well was trying to, you know, I said I have a very strong personality and mind, and even though I was going through something, I was trying to help people like me
Mm,
because I felt. So I used to, there are a lot of people then that they were having babies or people that were pregnant. And I'm like always talking to them that, look, when you when you have your baby, don't try to be a superwoman.
mm.
Share your thoughts, talk, share your thoughts,
Something about it. Yeah.
because for me, I felt at that time that it's too late for me to talk to anybody because I've left it for too long.
Mm,
So I was just carrying the burden, but I was trying to at the same time help. And I think as I was talking to other people, I was helping myself.
yeah, that's a
And
good one.
and there's another thing that I realized, it's like when you have the Holy Spirit in you, wisdom comes. So some of the things I did during this period was wisdom that I got.
Mm,
And I was doing some things without realizing that I was actually healing myself,
right. Okay. Okay.
like talking to people and
Mm,
helping them and getting involved and, supporting new mothers and all
mm,
that. So I didn't realize that I was actually helping myself because
helping
I
yourself.
knew what I went through. And I
Mm,
felt, you know, I shouldn't sit down and ignore these
yeah.
people.
Nice one. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to quickly take this
There's one thing,
question from
sorry,
Tessie. Yeah.
there's one thing I need to say as well. You also have to beware of your triggers.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the triggers because that's one of the
Okay.
things we talk about towards the end as well.
Okay.
So Tessie says, how long did it take you to regain your real self?
After that year, there was a day it was as if I was having a conversation with God, really.
Mm,
And then if I just started hearing that voice that you need to start taking care of yourself. This was like almost a year after I got free, that you need to start taking care of yourself because you don't want to turn and get to the age of 60 or 70 and then you become an angry
old woman.
elder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, angry old woman who
Yep.
is envious or jealous of younger people when you see them dress up and looking good and all that, and you start regretting what you didn't do in your own time.
Yeah.
That, and another, one thing that shocked a lot of people really was that in those days, my mom saw a picture of me and she was alarmed. So she had to call me. She said, "What's going on? What's wrong with you?" I said, so I had to lie to her. I said, it's because I just woke up that morning. I've not had my bath. So that was why the picture was like that. She didn't know what I was going through. I didn't tell anybody. So we need to realize that when you don't say anything, it's not helpful to you and it's not helpful to the
For
people
other people
around
around you.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Um, right. Let's talk about the holistic and natural approaches now. Yeah. For postnatal depression. I know that in addition to medical treatments, many mothers might find um, holistic or organic remedies more helpful in managing depression. Not a lot of people want to take tablets, like Cindy, for instance. She didn't want to go via that route of taking, tablets. So there are some herbal remedies, for instance, like I know you guys know what they call St. John's wort. It's a natural herb that will help with your mood balancing. I think it looks something like this. St. John's wort. That's that lovely, beautiful plant. It looks like that. So you can take that, but before you do anything holistic or herbal, you've got to always talk to your doctors about that, though. Yeah. There are other herbs like ashwagandha, and it helps with adapting your body to. It helps your body to adapt to the stress, anxiety. It just calms you down. You have things like chamomile tea. All those things will help you to calm down yourself. And you have things like this, the ashwagandha. It's like a root. Actually, I take this, funny enough. It's not because I'm depressed. I just love the effects it has on you. You just feel strong. And, you know, you really, yeah, I like it personally. I just sprinkle that in my custard or in my tea or my drink. And, you know, I just take it. It's very nice. And then things like chamomile also will help you as well. Yeah. And then there are some, you know, that I don't know whether you guys know about flax seeds and things like that.
Yeah.
Flax seeds are very, very good for you. You know, these
Mm.
are all the benefits, like it aids you with weight loss and cancer prevention and colon health, and, you know, it prevents dry eye syndrome, you know, it controls your cholesterol levels, it prevents arthritis, it helps with constipation. But one of the things it does, apart from the fact that it also helps with cardiovascular diseases, is that it helps to manage your hormone. It's very good with hormonal balance. So if you're going through things like that, your postnatal depression, that would really, really help as well, you know. And there's so many ways you can, you know, this can be treated as well, you know, your postnatal depression. You know, you can seek alternative therapies. You can, you know, sleep better, you know, maintain a very good sleep hygiene. We talked about that last week, actually. Sleep hygiene, you know, make sure that you don't sleep, you know, late. You don't put the phone on by your side or whatever. You have lights on or whatever. Make sure you have a nice ambience in your bed before you go to bed. Eat really, really good food, you know, things like omega-3 rich food would really, really help. Things like your salmons, your avocados, your mackerels, your almonds, spinach, leafy green vegetables like that. All these things actually will help to balance your system and help you in terms of having to help you with coping with postnatal depression. But not only that, though, generally, as a woman, you need to still take things like that anyway, whether you have this PND or not. It's very important for you to take things like this. But also, we talked about aromatherapy last week. This is also very good if you're going through depression, postnatal depression, or any form of depression at all. Aromatherapy really helps with things like that. Also, things like acupuncture. We talked about acupuncture last week as well. These also help. If you're like me that don't like needles, you just have to just bear it. And if you know, but it does help because it will target certain points. You know, we all know that in our bodies, we've got different points for different things that affect different parts of our body, our organs, our hearts, and stuff like that. So acupuncture really targets those areas and helps you. And then obviously we talk about yoga and meditation and things like that just calm you. And even if it's just going out for walks, for instance, just going out for walks, that really, really help. And like I said earlier on, if you're taking nutritional support, make sure that they are magnesium rich foods. Now, one of the things that is rich in magnesium, which I cannot say no to, will be dark chocolate. So that's a good thing. It's not just taking vegetables, but if dark chocolate helps, take it because it's actually very good for that as well. Yeah. Cindy, you were going to talk about your own treatments as well.
Oh, yeah. I think I've covered my treat the way I overcame the depression.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I spoke in between, because I don't I'm very conscious of the time when
So like I said, talk about counseling as well. You can seek counseling if you need help with that. And connect with groups. If there are ever women who's gone through the same thing as you can connect with them as well. And in terms of changing your lifestyle as well, rest a lot, even if it's in small amounts. Get a lot of rest. Like Cindy, for instance, said earlier that they've got to a point where she just, look, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to chill. Yeah. So that would really help you as well. Going for walks and all those sort of things. And also support system. Try as much as you can to make sure you talk about it, because it's only when you talk about things like that people will know you're going through it and then support you in the process. So please support, get support and get people around you when you're going through things like that. So guys in the audience, like I said earlier, put it in the chat. What do you think is the best way to support moms with postnatal depression, right? And what are the signs? How would you know that you may be susceptible to it? Now, you can't know. That's the truth. You cannot know. It's not like it's written on your forehead or whatever. But we talked about the fact that if you've ever had any sign of depression before, or your family, or maybe somebody in your family, or you have felt something like some depressive kind of state before, then you know that, okay, maybe I might be susceptible to it when I have a baby. So I will seek early help. I'm not going to wait until it happens before I seek help, right? So guys, just on before we conclude this, drop an encouraging message for moms out there in the chat, to say, look, listen, we've got you. If you seek help, if you need any help, because Cindy's story has been a testament of, somebody who has been able to have, develop power and resilience and hope for other people as well. You've shown us that you cannot go through this alone, and you've been able to be a source of motivation for other people who are going to go through this. Your story will help them to know that you don't have to be alone. You don't have to suffer in silence, if you're going through depression. And not only that, there are also helplines that you can approach. There's one called PANDAS. It's postnatal depression support. Yeah. And if you're in the UK and you're suffering from postnatal depression, you call 116123. That number will take you straight to them, and they will provide support for you. The NHS also have, a website. Go onto their website and just type postnatal depression. You have all the information you need to help you access the right people to help you cope with postnatal depression. Also, there's another organization called Mind. Yeah, they also provide support for mental health, and they will help you with the counseling. They just help you really to cope with postnatal depression. Yeah, so it's okay, for you. There's nothing wrong. You're not a failure. There's nothing wrong with you if you suffer from it. It's treatable. That's the beauty of it all. It's a treatable thing. It's not a big deal. But if this episode has resonated with you, please, I need you to share. In fact, now share, just share it now. Not only that, I need you to please subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel. It's a new channel. We're doing good things here. But the more we get your subscription, the more I see subscription, the more we're motivated to do some more programs like this that would encourage and empower people. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and share, and always come back for more shows, because there's going to be more and more and more of this sort of shows in the near future. Now, Robin says dark chocolate is great for everyone, for everything, for all genders. I'm not going to argue with that at all. That's very true. Cindy, you said.
Yeah, just one thing that I forgot I should mention is that, please, in terms of support,
Yeah,
family and friends can best support by trying to get the people around, get the people involved to talk,
yeah,
and take turns in helping with the baby, because sometimes what the mother needs is just space, just a little time away from the baby,
yeah.
because you have a crying baby, and so they just need that space. Engage them in activities, encourage them, give them, give the mother some time off. Respite is very, very important. And sometimes just being there and keeping quiet, your presence makes a lot of difference. You don't have to say anything,
Very true.
And finally, please speak up. Don't be like me.
Yeah. Very true, very true. And this is the good thing about Nigeria, though. Or Africa. When women have babies, they got their mother-in-law, their mother, their sisters. They come and help them to look after the baby so they can sleep and rest. All those things actually help mothers back home because they've got a support system around them. If you're living in the Western world, it's a different matter altogether. It's just stuck with you and your husband, and sometimes it can be tricky. It's not like spare a thought for single moms, even who don't even have a husband, and they have to cope with that if they're going through depression. So props to all single moms out there as well. If you've had to go through this by yourself, lots and lots and lots and lots and love to you. You've done a great job. Many thanks to Cindy for sharing your personal experience. I think that might be Maureen who said that because there's no name, but I think it might be Maureen. Aurora says, well done, Cindy. Thank God for you. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. This has been amazing. Cindy, honestly, you're a star. Thank you so much. And Cindy's going to be joining me much more. Okay. She's going to be one of my co-hosts. Not all the time, but now and again, I'll just get her in to come and co-host with me. We can just talk about little things, what's going on and whatever. We look for a nice, juicy topic to talk about. And I would so love you guys to join. And guys, really, you are in the chat. You are part of this family. You are the Empower Life family. All right. It's not just about one person. It's about every one of us. So guys, I need you. Any topic you want us to talk about, drop it in the chat. Okay. And if you want to come on the show as well to talk about that topic, look, this is your platform, right? It's got nothing to do with it's your platform. Come on the show and talk about it. But anything you want to talk about, please, as long as it's something that people are going to learn from, or you've got a product or a service or whatever, just put it in the chat. Send me an email, by the way, to empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com if you want to put that. Empowerlifewithcleopatra, one word, @gmail.com. And honestly, we get you on the show, right? Yoni says, absolutely fantastic discussion. Princeton says, thank you, Cindy, for sharing. Ibidun says, thank you. Well done, Cindy from Ogogo. Everybody says, well done. Thank you so much, Cindy. And thank you all for joining. You've been such a blessing. And I hope to see you next week. There's going to be a great show again next week, guys. So I look forward to seeing you. Thank you for joining. And good night, goodbye, and have a blessed week. God bless you. Bye for now. Bye.
Empower life with Cleopatra. Awaken the best version of you. Unlock your true potential. Empower your mind, body, and soul. Live with intentions, live with a purpose. Empower your dreams, make it happen today. No matter your age, rise and shine. Live boldly, live authentically. It's your time to rise and shine. Empower life with Cleopatra. Awaken the best version of you. Your journey starts today. You've got one life to live. Love yourself, be kind to others, break free and let your spirit soar. Empower life with Cleopatra will help you awaken the best version of you. Empower life with Cleopatra. Empower life with Cleopatra.